Hi folks, Buckley here. I want to go over a couple editing practices that are using hand editing, so editing documents by hand, and editing using two pieces of standard software that you may work with fairly regularly, but maybe not in editing mode, and those are Microsoft Word and Adobe Reader, or I'll be using Adobe Acrobat. Okay, so we're going to start with edits by hand. So what you're looking at in front of you is a paper. It's actually a paper that should be kind of relevant to you guys. This is about how we grade in Engineering 101. This is an academic paper that was written by myself and Dr. Enzer. And we're submitting this paper to an academic publication. So I am providing Dr. Enzer, my co-author, with some feedback on a draft of our paper. And you can see that I have done this by hand and I've scanned it in. And this paper goes on and on and on, right? But let me highlight a couple things, okay? So I'm using standard hand editing notation here. A few things. When I want to call out a particular location within the text, I'm making sure that I have a little leader line to say exactly where. You'll notice that here I'm using the ref notation. That means please use a reference, right? And then I've got a question that I'd like Dr. Enzer to address. I have some change to the phrasing down here where I have crossed out this with more standards, and it says as the number of standards increases, right? So a couple little notes. Also, I have some longer comments that I want my co-author to read. So I've called them out as MC, major comments, see back page of packet. And then this is my signature and the date that I'm doing the review. So that's pretty standard. Okay. Let's look a little bit further down. So we're going to focus more when we work in our software on this particular paragraph, which has a bunch of edits. So you'll see I'm calling out MC number 2, major comment number 2. I've let Dr. Enzer know too when things are working well in an edit. So here's a bit of positive feedback, okay? Constructive criticism here, positive, and some of the things that we need to improve on. Okay, so that just says nice. Major comment number 2 is related to this reference. Let's see what I had to say about that. So if I flip down here, major comment 2, you're right, you're overusing this Stevens and Levi reference. Any chance to bring in number 2 and number 3. Also, I'm giving you a reference book. That's what I'm saying there. Okay, so you should be able to read what is being said. This is my chicken scratch here, but hopefully you're getting kind of the hang of it. So try to write legibly. Okay, so major comment number 2 there, and then further down in the text, the language we, you notice I'm getting rid of a we here, so this is a personal reference, getting rid of that. The language used, so I switched from the language we used to the language used to describe rubrics isn't not entirely consistent, blah, blah, blah. So those are the edits there. I'm inserting a D, I'm crossing out this word. Regardless of the choice of jargon, I'd like him to change that to say, regardless of the nomenclature, literature on rubrics consistently specifies, so I'm changing the phrasing down here, okay? So a couple little comments related to this paragraph. So I'm using standard notation, just like we discussed in class, mainly strikeouts, some inserts, leader lines, longer comments. If I'm running out of space, I'm putting those at the very end. You'll have access to this file so you can look through in a bit more detail. But I'll tell you what, let's just focus on this one paragraph in the introduction. Rubrics are a tool to communicate, okay, and the edits that I'm making there. And let's now flip over to Microsoft Word and look at how we would make these comments in Microsoft Word. So I have a slightly updated version. So this is a couple days later. Dr. Enzer and I are still tossing this draft back and forth. So this is maybe a draft a little while later. I'd like to specify to him on this draft in Microsoft Word. So this is by hand. Let's say we're now working in the Word file. How to make these changes. The biggest thing you can do here, guys, is use something called track changes. Okay, so this is standard. You should know how to use it by the end of this course. Okay, so when you come into Microsoft Word, you know, I'm using the Mac version here, but you've got your tools up here. So I'm going to go to the Review tab. Okay, and then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on tracking. So if I go to tracking, I'm going to turn track changes on. This is going to track every single edit I make to the document. It's also going to put my stamp, my username on that, so Dr. Enzer will know exactly what I am doing. Then there are options here, so simple markup, all markup, no markup, original. I'm going to choose all markup because I'd like to see everything I'm doing. And then there's some other options here that we won't be using. Okay, so I have track changes on now, and what I'd like to do is I am down in, let me move down to the introduction. Rubrics are a tool, so those are the two same paragraphs. Okay, let's say that I want to start by adding in this comment. Okay, so I'll start by saying, here we go with a comment. Enzer, you're using this reference way too much. Okay, let's find some others. Okay, so there I've typed out that full comment that I've written. It was too long to kind of write out on that document, and I had it on the back page. I've typed it into a comments field. Okay, next let's work on this here, the language we used. So I'm going to go ahead and take out we and the language used. So I've made those two edits directly. So you'll notice the D is underlined, and then the we, it deleted that word. So the comments are being tracked over here. Regardless of the choice of jargon, I'm going to replace the choice of jargon with the word nomenclature. And I'm also going to do a strike through. Literature on rubrics consistently specifies, and then all the way over consistently specifies either a checklist or a grid, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So all I would do here, guys, is I would go ahead and save this version. So these, when Dr. Enzer then opens this file that I've edited, on his screen, he'll be able to go through and he can accept these changes individually, right? He could say, okay, Buckley, I accept this we here, but I don't like, I want to leave choice of jargon instead of nomenclature. So he can pick and choose which ones he wants to accept, or he could do an accept all and stop tracking, right? So that would just accept all of them. But all of this is saved in a version, right? So you've got access to all of this. Okay. So that is Microsoft Word. Now let's look at how we would edit the same paragraph, this time in Adobe. So I'll be using Adobe Acrobat. I have the Pro version here. You should have access to one of the Acrobat versions that does have the editing tool on any eCalc computer, and you may also be able to get it through UD's UDeploy system. But if you are editing in Adobe, it's not quite as clean as what you're doing in Microsoft Word, but it's still possible to make nice edits. And you should be flexible with the files that a colleague may send you as an engineer. Some of them are going to be PDF, some are going to be Word, some are going to be in other systems. So you should be able to do your editing in any three of these packages and make it readable to whoever you're editing for. Okay, so again, I'm going to make a couple edits here. The first thing I want to do is go to Tools. I'm going to choose the Comment tool, and that's going to pop up this bar. Okay, then what I'm going to do is, let's see, the first one I want to note. Okay, I'm going to say, hey, Enzer, oops, put my note right there. You are using this reference too much. Let's find another. And that posts. Next thing I'm going to do, right, is I am going to fix this language. The language, I'm going to strike out we. This is the strikeout tool, and I'm going to use, I'm going to have this be used, okay, which will insert that D there. Regardless of the choice of jargon, I'm going to switch that over to nomenclature. This is a strike through and insert new word. So I'll go ahead and post that. Consistently specifies is my last one, or consistently specifies. Okay, and I'll post that as well. Okay, so when Dr. Enzer opens this, he has the same options. He can see exactly who did the edits. He can accept these, or he can leave them. They won't. In some versions they'll actually change the text. In other versions it'll just still be left there which comments you are accepting. So just one more note on this. For your assignment, I do want to see everything that you typed in here. So the only way to do that is going to be when you do a printout. So when you print this, let's say you're printing your PDF here, and maybe you are printing it to a PDF itself. Oops, never mind. I want you to make sure that you are summarizing the comments, so you want to turn on Summarize Comments. And what that's going to do is, I'll show you on the preview. So here's my standard. I didn't make any comments on the first page, but on the second page, I made some comments. So I'm seeing those in blue, and then I get a comments page after that that shows me exactly which comments were checked. So just please, if you are, please make sure that when you print this out as PDF, right? So when you basically, or save it as PDF, that we're able to read the comments that you're making here if you're choosing to use the PDF editor, the Adobe editor, for making comments, okay? All right, so again, just to review, we went over editing practices by hand in Microsoft Word using track changes, and then lastly in Adobe using the comment toolbar. All right, that's what I have for you. Thank you.